Hello, everyone. I'm Jenna Paone. Welcome to A Mighty Blazes Celebrity Author Spotlight Thursdays. I am so excited today. We have a wonderful, thrilling, suspenseful afternoon for you today with the fabulous Pam Jenoff joining us to interview the equally fabulous Francesca Serritella. And ladies, we are so excited to have you here. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome.
Thank you for having us. Yeah, this is so exciting.
We are so excited. We are here to celebrate Francesca's debut novel, Ghosts of Harvard. Woo! We're so thrilled. And Pam is going to interview her today. I'm going to give a brief introduction and then let them take it away. So first, introducing Pam Jenoff. And Pam, you'll notice that this bio is very lovingly written for you by Caroline Levitt. So we are... So you might experience some editing in this, some personal love.
I can't wait.
The first thing you need to know about Pam Jenoff is that she loves lazy rivers at hotels. Second amazing thing is that Pam was a special assistant to the Secretary of the Army. This position provided a unique opportunity to witness and participate in operations at the most senior levels of government, including helping the families of the Pan Am Flight 103 victims secure their memorial at Arlington National Cemetery, observing recovery efforts at the site of the Oklahoma City bombing, and more. So Pam, you've done real good work to benefit humanity, in addition to all of your wonderful literary work.
Thank you.
Following her work at the Pentagon, Pam moved to the State Department. In 1996, she was assigned to the U.S. Consulate in Krakow, Poland. It was during this period that Pam developed her expertise in Polish-Jewish relations and the Holocaust. Working on matters such as the preservation of Auschwitz and the restitution of Jewish property in Poland, Pam developed close relations with the surviving Jewish community. Pam left the Foreign Service in 1998 to attend law school and graduated from the University of Pennsylvania. She worked for several years as a labor and employment attorney, both at a firm and in-house in Philadelphia, and now teaches law school at Rutgers. Wow, you were just like so multifaceted.
Thank you.
Pam is the author of The Commandant's Girl, which was an international bestseller and nominated for a Quill Award, as well as The Winter Guest, The Diplomat's Wife, The Ambassador's Daughter, Almost Home, A Hidden Affair, and The Things We Cherished. Just a few feathers in your cap, Pam. Wow, amazing. And now Francesca Serritella, who is no slouch either. Francesca Serritella is a New York Times bestselling author and columnist, and Ghosts of Harvard is her debut novel. Francesca grew up in the Philadelphia area and graduated cum laude from Harvard University, where she won multiple awards for her creative writing, including the Thomas T. Hoops Prize and the LeBaron Russell Briggs Prize. She also performed in choir and musical theater, in particular the Harvard Radcliffe Gilbert and Sullivan Society production. While working on Ghosts of Harvard, Francesca also co-authored a best-selling 9-book series of essay collections with her mother, best-selling author Lisa Scotolini, and co-writes a Sunday column entitled Chickwit in the Philadelphia Inquirer. Francesca lives in New York with her dog Pip and cat Mimi, although they're currently quarantined in Pennsylvania. She is working on her next novel. Ladies, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I am just thrilled about this interview. And without further ado or any more commentary from me, I'm going to let you guys take it away.
Oh,
awesome.
Thank you so much for introducing us so warmly. I want to say a huge congratulations to Francesca for Ghosts of Harvard. I am a longtime fan of both your books with your mom and your column, because I'm also in Philadelphia, Philly in the house. And but special congratulations for your debut novel, Ghosts of Harvard. Like many people, I think quarantine has taken readers one of two ways, right? They're either reading constantly or you get into nothing. And at the beginning of stay at home, I could get into nothing. And Ghosts of Harvard was the first book that really captivated me and set me off reading during this difficult time. So thank you for that.
Oh, I'm so honored to hear that. I've just been such a long fan of yours and my mom too. And this is just, I can't believe I get to virtually meet you and talk to you about this book. It really feels like a dream come true.
Oh, good. Well, I'm going to kick it off with questions since I get to ask the hard questions today. And I would like you to start by telling readers who are not familiar with the book a little bit about the book itself and what inspired you to write it.
Yeah, well, Ghosts of Harvard is about, it's really, I think it's a genre bender. It's part psychological thriller. It has supernatural and historical elements, but really at its core, it is a family story. It's a sister's story. It's about Cadence Archer, who has just lost her beloved older brother, Eric, to suicide while he was a student on Harvard's campus. He was brilliant. She adored him. She looked up to him. And then while he was in college, he developed schizophrenia and sadly, ultimately took his own life. And she is really struggling in that aftermath and filled with so many questions of why did he do it? What then, what could she have done differently to maybe have intervened, maybe have saved him from this sad outcome? And when she gets into Harvard herself, where she'd hoped to be joining him now, in his absence, feels she has to go to find those answers. And while she's on campus, she begins to fear she's losing her grip on reality herself. She begins to hear voices and fears she might be, could I be sick like my brother? But then she starts to believe those voices are something else and they could be ghosts. And if she listens to them, will they give her those answers she craves, lead her to the ghost she misses most, her brother? Or are they going to lead her down a path of her own self-destruction? So that's the story. That's the plot in Ghosts of Harvard. And yeah, I'm excited about it.
What inspired you to write this? So, I mean, what brought it's such a rich original story. What inspired the book itself?
I think the reason I say it's a family story and it really has this emotional heart is because it did come from a very emotional story that happened in my real life. When I was a junior at Harvard, a young man in my dorm took his own life. And he wasn't a close friend, but he was a person who I was used to seeing every day in the dining hall and giving a wave to, and notably no one I would have ever thought was struggling in any way. And that's the tragedy of mental illness, that you can't see it from the outside. And we were all shocked. I think the entire student body was shocked and saddened, but we didn't have a vocabulary to really talk to each other about it. And you don't know what to say. You don't know how to comfort each other. We compartmentalize, for better, for worse, I think worse. And then a year later, I was reading in the Harvard Crimson little newspaper that his little sister had learned to play guitar in that year interim because he was a musician and had come to Harvard's campus and performed a tribute to him on the anniversary of his death. And I was just knocked back in my chair because I thought, for all of us, maybe you can try and move on, or it's too scary to touch and you don't engage with it, you build that wall. But that's not an option for that family. That a tragedy like suicide does not happen to just one person in a family. It happens to the entire unit. And I was so moved by her courage and her love to come back to the campus where it happened, to perform in front of college students. I just was flooded with what that year must have been like for her. And the book is not based on that family in any way, but I was inspired by her love. I never forgot that sister and that story. And then as I started thinking about all different themes, that just emerged as a real point of inspiration for the book.
It's fascinating. It really is. So this is your debut, although you've published this is your debut novel, although you're well known and long published. And every novelist, I think, dreams of that debut and imagines what it's going to be like. And obviously for you, these have been extraordinary circumstances with the pandemic. So I would like to see it from your eyes and hear what it's been like to debut in the middle of all this, for better and for worse.
Well, I feel like the last few months for everybody have been this emotional roller coaster where we're constantly getting new information and wrapping our minds around a new normal and then a new normal. And then, so I feel like, Linda Blair and The Exorcist, my head has done multiple revolutions at this point. I think at first I was really heartbroken and worried that, as an authors go, I'm an extrovert. I think I always sort of imagine there's two types of authors, like the archetypes at least. The Hemingways, the introverts who write to explore within, and you're lucky to share their story after the fact. But that's really what they're doing. And then there's the even older type, the storyteller. And I am that latter type. For me, the magic happens once the story is told and somebody reads it, and I can connect with a stranger that I've never met. So because I'm so people oriented that way, at first I was really devastated. Like, are we not going to get to have that people moment. This is a solitary work, but I was so excited to meet and connect with readers in person. But what I have been so heartened and happy to see is that these virtual connections are just as genuine and just as real and more possible than I understood. I've learned a lot of new tech in the last few weeks. But these Facebook Lives, and I'm extremely reachable on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I love that interaction. So please reach out to me if you've read the book and want to talk about it. I'm available to come to book clubs virtually, Zooms. I have all that form on my website. So it's different, it looks different, but I have been really surprised and happy about how connected I still feel with this book right now and the readers.
It's so fascinating. I'm really grateful to hear you say the part about connecting with readers, because invariably when I'm at an event, I start, and there'll be another author next to me. I'll say like, yes, contact me on Facebook and Twitter. I say, contact us. And then the other author sort of, gives me a sideways look. So it's really great to, it's really great to hear that you feel that same level of connectivity with your readers. And what has the response been like so far? I know it's early days, but what has the reaction to the book been like?
I feel just completely humbled and honored and excited that it's been really positive. I feel like, I think especially because in the past I wrote memoir, I was used to feeling connected with readers because I was literally writing about myself. So people would go, I feel like you know me. I was like, you do know me. You know about my dating history, about, everything that's happened to me. I didn't know how that would translate to this novel, but I did have an inkling. I mean, I believed it because I remembered when I would be on book tours for the memoirs I wrote with my mom, and they would be funny. And then sometimes somebody would ask me, are you working on anything else? And of course I was working on this concurrently for 10 years, the entire time. And when they would ask if you're working on anything else, I would sometimes worry almost like, am I going to bring the room down? Because this book does deal with heavier topics and it's not all jokes and laughs and family. But I would tell them about it. And when I talked, I would feel the room shift, but in the best way. Like I would feel their hearts, they're listening and attentive. And then in the signing line, even when people were still all smiles and laughs and giving me hugs, so many people took me aside and said, I'm glad that you're writing about mental illness or suicide in this way, because I lost my father, my little sister, my husband. I realized, I knew that suicide touches so many people, but I didn't even feel the truth of that in the same way until I started talking about it. And I was so touched and honored that people opened up to me about something so personal, and it really just honed my desire to get this right for all those suicide survivors. And that is the term for somebody if they've lost a loved one, suicide survivor, so that they feel seen and loved and empathized with. And in reading the feedback from this, and I feel like they can see my heart in this book, and I hope that they can see that I saw theirs. So I am really amazed by how real those connections feel.
That's incredible. It's very, very meaningful. You talk about writing with your mom, but also growing up the child of a writer, as you've mentioned before. And I'm fascinated because I have to tell you, I have no writers in my family. Like in my family, writing is that strange thing you do instead of going to an office. And so I'm curious, what is it like and how does it influence your work and your process and you as a woman?
It was so inspiring, but I always clarify that I think I was so blessed to have been born not to a best-selling author, but to a beginning one, because I really saw her switch careers. She was a lawyer and then a judicial clerk, and then started working on her first novel. And I saw the work ethic. I just saw the grind. I saw her build it brick by brick. In the very beginning, I saw her spend 5 years on a first novel that never got published. And people are always like, ooh, they say, what happened to that book? She lost it. She lost the floppy disk. Just give us a little date. We don't even know. But what's so funny about that is I don't remember that moment in my childhood as this big, sad, terrible thing that happened to my mom when it didn't get published. It was just like, she dusted herself off and she started writing a second one. And that was her first Everywhere That Mary Went. And I think that was such an important lesson, that failure is an event, not a definition. This is a job, and like any other, you try it. If you struggle or fail, try again. And that it isn't sort of some gift from God or some super mysterious, lofty artistic pedestal of how a person becomes an author and a story becomes a book. And I think that probably freed up my courage to try it.
That's incredible. So you mentioned that Ghosts of Harvard was something that you wrote over 10 years. And so can you tell us I'm curious about your writing process. What's it like for you? And how has it changed?
I feel mixed. I feel self-conscious when I say 10 years. It sounds so long. It's longer than, of course, I thought it would, my naive little brain. But I think so much of writing is this mental game you have to play with yourself. And it certainly was for me. I think it really is for, unpublished writers. I hate aspiring writers because I'm like, if you are writing, you are a writer. But if you're not yet published and you're not getting that external validation, I went to Harvard. I was good at school. I was good at grades. Writing is like, you have to be your own everything, your own in charge of that all. So one lesson I learned from my mom was word count goals per day. Make it empirical, make it the measure of your success that day, nothing emotional. Because if you try to lay your head on the pillow and go, was I a good enough writer today to go to sleep? The answer, at least for me, never seems to be yes. But if I could just make it depersonalized, did I hit 500 words? Did I hit 1,000 words? Whatever my little goal was, then I could at least get something down, get a draft down to write. And God knows I drafted and redrafted this book, but I think it needed it. I hope it benefited from the barrel aging and I grew up with it. So I grew into the idea in a lot of ways, I think.
Incredible. Incredible. So what would you like readers to know about you? What would you like them to know about you when they read this, or just?
I guess one, to go back to that I want to hear from them, and also that I'm just like them. I think I do feel like that there's this sort of mysterious quality that comes with being an author, this idea that, you're sitting behind the table signing aloof. I'm not that type of author. I actually don't know many authors who are that type. Authors like you, I know, Pam, who are warm and wonderful and supportive of each other. And I think this Mighty Blaze shows that tenfold. But I'm like that too. And I still struggle. Every single bit of writing advice I give, I'm still trying to give to myself. I'm still trying to, internalize. And I'm in the trenches with you, and I get it. And I'm so grateful for everybody's time that they're going to read what I wrote. And I'm thrilled to give my time back.
And I can tell you get that from your mom, because I'm just going to interject and say, when I was an unpublished writer, I went to one of your mom's signings in Philadelphia, and she was like, here's the name of my agent and my editor. So I think you get that very generous and approachable ethic. You come by it honestly, as they say.
Oh, thanks. I think so too. I mean, we've had a couple of things that we developed. It was almost like rules, but it was also it was our ethos, and we was never stand behind the table. We're always in front of the table. We were always huggers. I don't know if this virus means we'll have to learn to do a little dance instead of hug, but we make it fun. And it's really just because I feel that energy from readers. That's just such a magic trick to me, that somebody took something I put into their home and let me and my story into their heart, is so amazing that it makes me want to dance and hug.
And it's going to be tough, I'm telling you, because I'm a hugger too. And there was this time when the coronavirus first started and we weren't canceling events yet. And we were like, how can we do the event and not contact? Are we going to use a Post-it note? And it just wasn't the same. This virtual hug is much better, I think, for now.
It's a surprisingly good substitute, and we're all we're more connected on the phones and available than ever. So yeah,
I agree.
Have to do.
Are you working on anything now? Are you writing?
I am working on book 2, and I promise it won't take me as long. I do have to thank all these wonderful readers who supported me enough to get book contracts that now I don't have to juggle so much. So I'm sure I'm both contractually obligated and will write it faster. But so I'm working on the second one. It's a little too soon to talk about, but I'm very excited about it. It's not a sequel, but I think if you enjoyed Ghosts of Harvard, it's some of the same spirits, DNA type of things like that. I think you'd like it too.
I can't wait. Write faster. There's contracts. Those contracts are going to keep you writing.
Sam, I'm interested because did it take you a lot longer to write your debut novel as opposed to subsequent novels? Because that seems to be a trend.
Well, certainly the same phenomenon that Francesca's talking about, where the first one I was just kind of writing for myself and I wasn't under contract, right? Then the next few came quicker because I had deadlines. But I'm going to tell you a secret. I'm 10 novels in and I'm older and I am slower now. And so I can't do a book a year anymore. I've slowed down a lot in my own process to a place that I really love, both creatively and commercially. I really love the not the 10-year pace, but like the, year and a half, 2-year pace is a lot better for me personally.
That's so wonderful to really feel comfortable in your process, because what people don't often think about with writers is this is our job, and it's also a gift. Like, it really is that journey. The journey of writing for us is such, and I hope, an enjoyable process. Of course, some of those days are not so enjoyable. We all have those days, but overall, the day-to-day thing, hopefully it gives us something as well. That's very cool. I'm not sure I've heard many authors say they really love their their actual like timeline. Like, that's very cool. That's something to aspire to. That's my new goal, is to like love the pace that I write at. That sounds,
well, I admire how self-assured that is. And I think it's like so much of being a writer is getting to know yourself. And I'm probably, it's not there yet myself. I'm still meeting parts of myself in this book. I thought I was writing fiction, that I'm like seeing my issues in it. But yeah, it's like, to feel that confidence. I'm probably still a little bit of a nervous Nelly when I write, and want to turn it in at the right time. But the stories have their own timelines. That's the truth.
Yeah. Oh, I'm still totally petrified and failing spectacularly. Don't let anyone fool you. I'm in the trenches.
I love that. One more question for both of you, because this is something that has been very interesting to me lately in speaking to so many authors, especially from different genres than the genre that I write in. I often hear from people who, you both at various times in your work, in very different ways, but you both explore sort of the darker sides of humanity in some ways, and sort of, triumph from difficult circumstances and going through the fire. And I wonder where that comes from. I'm interested in whether that comes from a place of hope and optimism, and helping and feeling like you want to guide people, because that's something I've heard a lot from. I wonder if you could just kind of speak to people about, especially now, we're all going through this crazy time. We're all looking for coping mechanisms and guidance. And I'm wondering how you cushion yourselves to be able to go on those emotional journeys without kind of dragging yourself down. Wondering if you have any thoughts on that. Or is that too vague of a question?
No. I think I certainly, I am always coming from a place of hope, but not coming from a place of, you said, do hope to guide people. I am not coming from that superior position to my readers or to my characters. My characters are grappling with things that I have grappled with, maybe in different, kaleidoscope iterations of them. I was acutely aware during this book that I had not lost somebody in my immediate family to suicide. And that's why it was so important to me to empathize so deeply with that. But I have experienced other aspects of this story in my own personal life. Like I said, issues that I deal with about control and regret, and when to let go and when to have more self-compassion, which is, I think, is something this character is really struggling with. So it's like, if it's not something that's thorny for me to grapple with, then I don't think it will be compelling. So I'm coming from that place of trying to figure it out. And I do think that in writing this, I felt certain walls come down. I've been a person who, for all my Italian gesticulations and stuff, emotionality, I could never cry at movies. I never cried anything like that. And when I was living with these stories and doing research for this book, I felt those walls came down. I became a big crier. But I think that's good too, and that's healthy. Like, I think that books connect and serve and heal the author as much as they do the reader.
That's great.
So I would say that I don't consider myself writing the dark side of people. I think I write the gray areas of
Yep.
people. And so I deal with a lot of complexities, mainly around World War II. And what happens in my books are that my character, no one's all good or all bad. There's a lot of shades and a spectrum of individualized human responses. For me, that comes out of a time period. I lived in Eastern Europe and I grappled with the war, and I found a lot of my own notions changed and tested. So I want to show people these gray areas, and then I want to take the reader and put her or him in the shoes of my protagonist and have that reader say, what would I have done? And that's kind of the journey that I'm looking for. And if they, by doing that in my book, if they can find some relevance in their own lives, I'm happy about that as well.
So wonderful. You guys are both fantastic. Thank you so much for being here today. I want to encourage everyone to please buy Ghosts of Harvard. Go out, and I want to direct you to some of Francesca's favorite bookstores, if you are so willing, independent stores in Pennsylvania. One is Town Book Center, and one is Main Point Books, and we will link to both of those in our comments. They are both selling signed copies, and they are shipping nationally. So if you would like a signed copy, which is always one of my favorite things to get from an author, I just think it makes it a little extra special.
I would love to inscribe them to you. It touches me every time. It's like, it's really just a little dream come true. You'll see my hearts in this sign.
And of course, Pam has a catalog that would keep you through this entire quarantine. So please also go back, and if you haven't read some of her earlier books or her most recent one, please do. We'll also be encouraging everyone to order from bookshop.org. If you are having trouble finding an indie near you, we of course love to support independent bookstores and make sure that we have bookstores to go back to when all of this is over, so that we can continue to make those gathering places for authors and book lovers alike. And please follow both Pam Jenoff and Francesca Serritella on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. Go send them emails. As you said, Francesca loves to chat. So, hit her up and be like, hey girl, what's up? Ask her some questions about the book. Pam, I don't want to volunteer you for the same.
No, I'm all in. I'm all in.
Go ahead, do the same to Pam. Make them your new best friend.
We'll dance for you.
We have a big book club party at my house, hoping all this virus stuff happens in the fall. That if your book club reads this book, I'm literally invite you to this house and serve you lunch and have a big bookapalooza talking about it. So all those details are on my website, which is my name, francescaserritella.com. So I love you, readers.
Fabulous. Thank you both so much. This was an amazing conversation. I really appreciate it. Any last words before we sign off today?
Read Francesca's book. It's awesome.
And Pam's, and just thank you. Thank you to you both, and thank you for everyone for watching.
Thank you guys so much. Once again, this has been A Mighty Blazes Celebrity Author Spotlight Thursdays. I'm Jenna Paone. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.